On July 13th, 1978, a man staggered out of a concrete bunker. His face was completely numb on one side. He had just seen a flash brighter than 1,000 suns, but he had felt absolutely nothing. Inside that bunker sat one of the most powerful machines on Earth, a proton synchrotron particle accelerator. Seconds earlier, its beam had fired directly through his skull. The man was still standing, he was still breathing, and he had no idea he was supposed to be dead. Anatoli Bugorski was a 36-year-old Soviet physicist. He worked at the Institute for High Energy Physics in Protvino. The facility was home to the U-70 synchrotron. It was the most powerful particle accelerator in the Soviet Union. Bugorski was not a reckless man. He was a respected researcher with years of experience. His job that day was utterly routine. A piece of equipment inside the accelerator had malfunctioned. He simply needed to check on it. He had done this exact task dozens of times before. The machine was supposed to be completely shut down. A safety indicator had confirmed it was off, so Bugorski leaned his head into the accelerator channel. He looked inside, and that is when everything changed. The safety mechanism had failed. The U-70, a proton beam traveling at nearly the speed of light, hit him. It entered through the back of his skull. It carved a path straight through his brain tissue, and it exited through his left nostril. The beam carried a focused dose of 200,000 rads. A dose of just 500 rads is considered fatal. He had absorbed 400 times the lethal amount. Yet Bugorski felt no pain whatsoever in that moment. He saw an intense flash of white light fill his vision. He later described it as brighter than 1,000 suns. There was no agony, no scream, no collapse. He simply stood up and walked out of the room. Bugorski told no one what had happened at first. The Soviet Union did not tolerate embarrassing accidents. Reporting one could end a career overnight. But within hours, the left side of his face began to swell. The skin blistered and peeled away in strange, clean strips. He was rushed to a clinic in Moscow reserved for nuclear cases. The doctors there had never seen anything like this. No human being had ever been struck by a focused particle beam. He was the first and only case in recorded history. They studied him not as a patient, but as a specimen. They documented everything with obsessive precision, and every single one of them reached the same conclusion. Anatoli Bugorski would be dead within 72 hours. But 3 days passed, and Bugorski was still alive. Then a week passed, then a month. The doctors were completely unable to explain it. The beam had burned a precise corridor through his brain. It had destroyed tissue, nerves, and bone along a perfect line. The left half of his face became completely paralyzed. His left ear went permanently deaf. The nerve connections on that side were severed forever. But somehow, the beam had missed every critical brain structure. It had threaded through his skull like a needle through fabric. Millimeters in any direction, and he would have died instantly. The Soviet government classified his entire case immediately. For over a decade, the world knew nothing about Protvino. Bugorski was forbidden from ever speaking about the incident. He continued his research at the Institute in silence. He completed his doctoral degree despite the damage. He endured frequent seizures that struck without warning. He suffered episodes of extreme and sudden mental fatigue, but he kept working. He kept living. And then something truly bizarre became visible over the years. The right side of his face aged completely normally. Lines deepened around his eye and mouth. Skin sagged and hair turned gray, but the left side did not age at all. The nerves were dead, so the muscles never moved. They never contracted, never creased, never wrinkled. The skin stayed smooth and frozen in place. For decades, Anatoli Bugorski walked the earth with two faces, one that grew old with time and one that was permanently locked in 1978. He was shot through the head at nearly the speed of light. He absorbed enough radiation to kill 400 Gen. Every expert in the Soviet Union wrote him off as dead, and he simply refused to die. As of the last confirmed reports, Bugorski is still alive. He is in his 80s now, still carrying the path of a proton beam through his skull, the only human being ever to survive a particle accelerator, and half his face still has not aged a single day.